Mr. Skinny was extraordinarily thin, painfully thin. If he turned sideways, you could hardly see him at all. And what made it even worse was that he lived in a place called Fatland. Yes, Fatland. As you can very well imagine, everything and everybody in Fatland was as fat as it could be. Not stout, fat. Fatland dogs were extremely fat. Fatland worms were extraordinarily fat. Fatland birds were exceedingly fat. And you should see a Fatland elephant. And there, in the middle of all this fatness, lived Mr. Skinny, in the thinnest house you've ever seen. Poor Mr. Skinny, he didn't like being so different from everything and everybody. But there wasn't very much he could do about it. You see, he had hardly any appetite at all. A Mr. Skinny meal was a very meagre affair. Do you know what he had for breakfast? 1 cornflake. And for lunch, 1 baked bean. And for tea, nothing. And for supper, the world's smallest sausage. After that, he felt so full he went straight to bed. In his long, thin bed, in his long, thin bedroom, in his long, thin house in Fatland. Oh, I do wish I could do something about my appetite, he sighed to himself, just before he went to sleep. I think, he thought, that I'd better go and see the doctor about it. And he went to sleep. The following morning was lovely. A large, fat sun shone down on the fat green trees and the fat yellow flowers. And through them walked Mr. Skinny on his way to see the doctor. Dr. Plump. Come in, he wheezed as Mr. Skinny knocked at his door. Sit down, he wheezed as Mr. Skinny entered. And what, he wheezed, putting his plump fingers together, seems to be the trouble? It's my appetite, exclaimed Mr. Skinny. I'd like to be able to eat more so that I could put on a little weight. Yes, you are rather, how shall I put it, thin, wheezed the doctor, looking at him over his glasses. I know, he continued. Let's start the treatment right now. He licked his lips. This very moment, he added. And he opened a drawer in his desk and took out an enormous cream cake. He put it on the desk in front of him. And opened another drawer, took out half a dozen doughnuts, and put them on the desk in front of him. And opened another drawer, took out a dozen currant buns, and put them on the desk in front of him. 11s, he explained. But it's only 10 o'clock, said Mr. Skinny. Who's counting? Wheezed Dr. Plump. Tuck in. And without further ado, he and Mr. Skinny ate the lot. Mr. Skinny ate a dab of cream, a doughnut crumb, and 1 currant. Dr. Plump ate the rest. Wheezed Dr. Plump, popping the last currant bun into his mouth and looking at Mr. Skinny. I see what you mean about your appetite, he said. He thought for a moment. Only one thing for it, he wheezed. This calls for drastic measures. And he picked up his telephone with his podgy fingers and dialed a number. 100 miles away, the telephone rang. Brr, 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 brr. Hello, said a voice. Do you know whose voice it was? Mr. Greedy speaking, said the voice. Mr. Greedy listened to what Dr. Plump had to say. You'd like a Mr. Skinny to come to stay, he said. To build up his appetite, he added. Delighted, he agreed. And so Mr. Skinny went to stay with Mr. Greedy. He stayed for a month. And during that time, Mr. Greedy did manage to increase Mr. Skinny's appetite. And so at the end of the month, Mr. Skinny returned home. Happy. With a tummy. A tummy was something Mr. Skinny had always wanted. I never knew I had it in me, he chuckled to himself. He was feeling so proud of his tummy that he decided to call in and see Dr. Plump on the way home. "I say," wheezed Dr. Plump, looking him up and down. "Congratulations. I tell you what," he went on, "this calls for a celebration." And he opened his desk drawer. Poor Mr. Worry. Whatever happened, he worried about it. If it rained, he worried that his roof was going to leak. If it didn't rain, he worried that all the plants in his garden were going to die. If he set off shopping, he worried that the shops would be shut when he got there. And when the shops weren't shut when he got there, he worried that he was spending too much money shopping. And when he got home with his shopping, he worried that he'd left something behind, or that something had fallen out of his basket on the way home. And when he got home and discovered that he hadn't left anything behind, and that nothing had fallen out of his basket on the way home, he worried that he'd bought too much. And then he worried about where to put it all. Life was just one long worry for poor Mr. Worry. One day, he went for a walk. He was worried that he might walk too far and not be able to get home. But, on the other hand, he was worried that if he didn't walk far enough, he wouldn't get enough exercise. He hurried along worrying. Or, you could say, he worried along hurrying. He met Mr. Bump. "Hey, I'm very worried about you," he said. "Why's that?" asked Mr. Bump. "I'm worried that one of these days you might hurt yourself," he said. "Don't you worry your head about that," replied Mr. Bump, and went off, tripping over his own feet. Mr. Worry went on. He met Mr. Noisy. "Hey, I'm very worried about you," he said. "Why is that?" asked Mr. Noisy. "Well, I'm worried that you might lose your voice," said Mr. Worry. "Don't you worry your head about that," said Mr. Noisy, and went off. Clump, 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 clump. Mr. Worry went on. He met Mr. Greedy. "Hey, I'm very worried about you," he said. "Oh, why's that?" asked Mr. Greedy. "Well, I'm worried that you might eat too much and be sick," explained Mr. Worry. "Me?" replied Mr. Greedy. "Eat too much? Oh, impossible." And he went off for lunch. Mr. Worry went on. He met a wizard. "Hello," said the wizard. "Who are you?" "I'm Mr. Worry." "And you look it," commented the wizard. "I tell you what," he went on, for he was a helpful sort of wizard. "Why don't you go home and write down every single thing that you're worried about, and I'll make sure that none of these things will ever happen. And then you won't have anything to worry about, will you?" Mr. Worry smiled. It was the first time he'd smiled in a long time. In fact, it was the first time he'd smiled that year. He hurried home in great excitement. When he got home, he sat down to write out all the things that worried him. Every single thing. It was a long list. And then he went to bed and had the best night's sleep he'd had in years. The following morning, the wizard came round to collect Mr. Worry's list. "My goodness me," he said, when he saw the size of it. "However," he said, "leave it to me. I'll go off and make sure that none of these things will ever happen." And off he went. "Nothing to worry about now," he called over his shoulder. "Nothing at all." Mr. Worry heaved a sigh of relief. That day was the first day in Mr. Worry's life that he didn't have a single thing to worry about. And the next day, and the day after, and the day after that. On Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Mr. Worry didn't have a care in the world. But on Monday morning, he was a worried man. Oh dear. What do you think was worrying him? Can you guess? He went to see the wizard. "Oh dear," said the wizard when he saw him standing on his doorstep. "What's worrying you now?" "I'll tell you," said Mr. Worry. "I'm worried because I don't have anything to worry about." And he went home to worry. Mr. Slow, as you may well know, or perhaps you don't, lived next door to Mr. Busy. He'd built his house himself, slowly. It had taken him 10 years. And as you well know, or perhaps you don't, Mr. Slow talked in an extraordinarily slow way. He talked like this. And every single thing he did was as slow as the way he talked. For instance, if Mr. Slow were eating a currant cake for tea, it took him until bedtime. He'd eat it crumb by crumb, currant by currant, chewing each crumb and each currant 100 times. For instance, last Christmas, it took Mr. Slow until New Year's Day to open his Christmas presents. And then it took him until Easter to write his thank you letters. Oh, he is a slow man. And now this story isn't about the time Mr. Slow went on a picnic with Mr. Busy. That's another story. No, this story is about the time Mr. Slow decided to get a job. He read all the job advertisements in the Sunday paper, which took him until Wednesday, and then he went and got himself a job reading the news on television. Can you imagine? It was very embarrassing. Good evening. Here is the 9 o'clock news. And this is Mr. Slow reading it. Last night, in Nonsense Land, there was a heavy fall of yellow snow. It took him until midnight to read it, and everybody who was watching went to sleep. So that job wasn't any good, was it? Then Mr. Slow got himself a job as a taxi driver. "Take me to the railway station," cried Mr. Uppity as he leapt into his taxi. "I have a train to catch at 3 o'clock. "Right-o," said Mr. Slow, and set off at 1 mile an hour. He arrived at the station at 4 o'clock, so that job wasn't any good, was it? And that summer, Mr. Slow got a job making ice cream. But by the time he'd made the ice cream, it wasn't exactly the right sort of weather to be selling ice cream. So Mr. Slow got himself a job making woolly scarves. But by the time he'd finished making the scarves, it wasn't exactly the right sort of weather to be selling scarves. Whew. Poor Mr. Slow. He went around to ask the other Mr. Men what he should do. But they weren't very helpful. "Be a racing driver," suggested Mr. Silly. Can you imagine? No. Be an engine driver, suggested Mr. Funny. Ha ha! Can you imagine? No. Be a speedboat driver, suggested Mr. Tickle. Can you imagine? No. But then Mr. Happy had an extremely good idea, most sensible. Be a steamroller driver, he suggested. And today, that is exactly what Mr. Slow does. Slowly backwards, slowly forwards, he drives, up and down, down and up, ever so slowly. The next time you see a steamroller doing that, look and see if Mr. Slow is driving it. If he is, you shout to him. Hello, Mr. Slow. Having a nice time? And he'll wave and shout back to you. Yes, thank you. Boy,